All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, here in 2024, the NBA continues to be one of the most popular sports globally. But just because the NBA is popular and great does not mean that it cannot be greater. As great as the NBA has been, it has been plagued by the controversy of load management. Now, players being shut down by teams, this is something that we've seen. And in some cases, players simply sitting out on their own. Now, this situation reached a head when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver announced last offseason that in order for a player to be eligible for any postseason award, All NBA, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, you name it, you got a situation where that said player would have to be in at least 65 games during the regular season. We've seen the recent comments from Indiana Pacers star guard Tyrese Halliburton, who called it a stupid rule. You're talking about a guy in Tyrese Halliburton, who is out right now with a hamstring injury, a legitimate injury. He just came back. But if he misses a couple more games, you're talking about a scenario where he's not going to be eligible for any of these accolades. And also, that's going to cost him financially with said clauses in his contract. But honestly, I could understand where a guy like Halliburton is coming from. Okay. But if guys like Halliburton and other players around the league feel that this rule is stupid, let's not forget this was agreed upon by the owners and the players in the last round of collective bargaining. So, number one, you got to get mad at your union for agreeing to it. And number two, you got to get mad at your fellow your colleagues, if you will, around the NBA because they're the reason why it got to this point. It's one of those where if you're going to get upset, you got to sit back and ask yourself, well, why was this rule put in place to begin with? And at the end of the day, it all comes back to load management. Now, let's be real about this. The networks that televise NBA games, they're paying millions and in some cases billions of dollars to televise these contests. And those networks are not forking over the big bucks to not have the stars not play when they're televising these games. Now, we just saw this last night where LeBron and Anthony Davis sat out on the TNT game when between the Lakers and Boston Celtics, and just highlighting this. But this is an issue that has been going on for years. Not a LeBron and an AD thing. Don't get me wrong; it's an NBA thing. And at the end of the day, it's a huge disservice to the fans and the league as a whole. Because what do you say to a fan? And there are some fans that can only afford to go to one game a year. And that person is now paid for a ticket, or if they bring somebody with them, they've paid for tickets. And after they've paid for that ticket and they go to the game, they find out, as an example, that Steph Curry or Kevin Durant, the player that they really want to see play, or another superstar for that matter, is not playing. Now, you look at the Lakers, you look at how hard that this team played during the end season tournament. Why can't that effort be given on a nightly basis? Because we've seen what the Lakers have been post in season tournament. And, it's one of those where, aside from the effort, questioning the effort on it, look at the fact of why the NBA had to come up with an in-season tournament idea to begin with because guys weren't playing hard during the regular season. It's one of those where the players and some of these front offices have basically told the fans that the regular season does not matter. And on top of that, neither does your money. Now, everyone wants something for nothing. And some people are going to agree with what I'm about to say, some people aren't. But like I always say, it's all good. But at the end of the day, you can't go out there and sign a contract where you're getting 30, 40, 50 million dollars a year and not expect that there is no price or responsibility that comes along with that. Like the old saying goes, you gotta pay the cost to be the boss. That's the nature of the game. The Players Association would never agree to what I'm about to say, but what would happen if players only got paid for the games that they played in and they had to forfeit their game check if they didn't play? I guarantee you, everybody in the NBA would be signing up to play 82 games if that was the case. It'll never happen. I'm just saying hypothetically. Now, the ticket prices at some of these arenas vary based on what teams are playing. If the home team is playing the Charlotte Hornets, those tickets are not going to cost as much money as if they're playing the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, or LeBron, or the Lakers with LeBron or AD, or the Suns with Kevin Durant, and so many other teams with star players around the NBA. What happens, or how do you feel as a fan if you've paid this additional cost for that ticket, and then you get to the arena and your star player, a la a LeBron or Steph Curry or Luka, whoever, is not playing? That's a disservice right there. What would happen? And again, this is hypothetically because it's not going to happen, but I'm just throwing it out there. But what would happen if teams had to start refunding money to fans who have purchased tickets, and because they wanted to see a star player and that star player is not playing? I'll come at you with this from another aspect. Can you imagine, paying to go see a Drake concert, or even like a musician that's no longer with us, a la Michael Jackson, and you spent your hard-earned money to see MJ or see Drake or whomever, okay, perform, and then when you get to that venue, that arena, that stadium, you find out that Drake or Michael Jackson or whomever is not performing because he needs to rest after his show in Los Angeles not last night. So now he's telling the folks in Houston that came to see him perform tonight that in spite of the fact that you paid your money, you're not going to be able to watch him perform because he is resting. That would not sit well with those people who purchased said tickets. I guarantee you this. Now, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is all about player empowerment, but honestly, no disrespect to anybody, it would have never gotten to this point on David Stern's watch. David Stern, some of the players didn't like him, but he was respected. Whereas with Adam Silver, I think he is liked more universally by the players. But in my opinion, at least, I don't think he is respected in the same vein that one David Stern was. Now, the next television deal for the NBA is going to be very interesting. There's going to be a boatload of money out there, and they're going to get it. However, it wouldn't surprise me to see if there were certain clauses in said deal if players ain't playing, because the ESPNs, the TNTs of the world, they're not going to be ready to fork over billions of dollars and watch a Knicks Lakers game, for an example, and see the backups playing predominantly the entire game, especially when this is a marquee game on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday night, you name it. Can you imagine? Okay, going back to David Stern, and of course, David Stern was at the forefront of getting, the bigger TV deals of the 1980s, the bigger TV deals of the 1990s, of course, and so forth. But you think back to those days, with CBS and the NBA during the 1980s, and you had a Lakers Celtics game, okay, that was advertised all week long. That this is going to be your 3:30 afternoon game, and when folks turn that game on, or when folks show up to the Boston Garden at a Great Western Forum to watch, these two combatants, which basically combined for 8 NBA championships that decade. Can you imagine if they got to the arena and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson are in street clothes, or Larry Bird, on the other side is in street clothes? They wouldn't be thrilled about that. Can you think about it in the 1990s when NBC had the NBA's team contract, for a bulk of their games, and you had Bulls Knicks advertised, and when the folks showed up to Madison Square Garden, they saw Michael Jordan in a suit, and they saw the same for Patrick Ewing. People would not have been thrilled. This is what this is currently gotten to, and you know what? It's unfortunate, And at the end of the day, it's disgusting. There are people out there who feel, well, maybe the NBA should shorten the regular season because the regular season is too long. I'll tell you like this: if you shorten the regular season, which would never happen, everybody loses money, and the owners don't want that because the owners are getting less money, and if the owners are getting less money, you're guaranteed that the players are going to get less money as well. Nobody is going to go for that. Now, people can get upset, but this rule was put in place because at the end of the day, the NBA team owners are not going to allow the players to mess with their money. And from a player's aspect, you know, some of them are beefing about this, but at the end of the day, you voted for this. And at the end of the day, as well, the average 9 to 5 Joe does not want to hear about you wanting to play. There's plenty of plumbers, construction workers, you know, truck drivers, whomever out there that don't feel like going to work every day. But you know what? They know they got to put food on the table. They know they got a family to feed. And in some cases, you got some people out there working multiple jobs to make ends meet. They don't want to hear about it. They want to go out there and see you perform. So at the end of the day, I feel that this 65 game threshold is here to stay in the NBA until the players can prove to the commissioner and to the team owners that they're more committed. And I know I've been talking about the players, but some of it's on the front offices as well, with this analytic stuff. Okay. But I think that this thing is here today. And why is it that players from older generations never had an issue with load management? And these guys, they didn't have the same amenities such as charter flights, nutritionists, the medical technology of today, and other things, but they played. Playing in all 82 games was a badge of honor, because you went out there, you showed that you were an Iron Man, you showed that you wanted to go out there and do it every night. And it wasn't just you know, a handful of guys. It was the bulk of the league. You look at a John Stockton, how durable he was for the Utah Jazz, a Karl Malone, a Michael Jordan, so many others, even going back to the days of Jerry West and Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. As much as people want to talk down about that generation. Oh, they didn't play against the talent, yada, yada, yada. These guys went out there and played. In some cases, they were taking buses and trains to games. There were no five-star hotels back then. And in some cases, there was segregation. These guys went out there and played, gave it maximum effort on a night in and night out basis. There was no complaining about it. You showed up, you did your job, and went home. But like I said, I do believe that the 65 game threshold is here to stay. The players might want to complain about it, but at the end of the day, they got nobody to blame but themselves. And like I said before, you want to be the boss, there's a cost that comes along with it. You want all of that money, okay, that you are currently getting. And we're talking about millions of dollars uh, floating around the business that is basketball, professional basketball. There is a price that comes with it. You have to accept it. If you can't accept it, don't sign up to be in the NBA. Plain and simple. But folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365 that you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.